Okay, I've given you sort of a brief overview of some of the things I'll be telling you. This part of it is not easy. I don't talk about these things with people. Um, I haven't talked about this outside of doctor's office, but hopefully somebody can learn something from it. Okay. I told you that I had multiple personality disorder. Well, when I was 8 years old, I was raped. All of us kids were playing a game called Kick the Can, and I had gone to hide behind this old abandoned house. While I was hiding, a 17-year-old boy that lived down the street snuck up behind me, and he put his hands over my mouth and his hands in my pants. I don't remember anything after that. I found out many, many, many years later that my 5-year-old sister was back there as well. She was hiding behind a tree in the farther part of the backyard. She saw what this boy did to me. And for years, she hated me, and I didn't know why. Until she told me that she thought that I left her there. She thought that I knew she was back there. She said that I went home and that I told my mother what had happened. And she said, just pretend like it didn't happen. She sent me back outside where he was. And the things that he did to me continued for over a year. He would come down there. I mean, we lived in a little housing addition cul-de-sac thing, and all the kids in the neighborhood always played in the street, ball or whatever, or in each other's yards, those kinds of things. He would come down to our house, and he would pull up a chair in the yard, in the front yard, and make me sit on his lap while he put his hands up underneath my shorts in front of plain view of everybody. Nobody ever said a word. I didn't say anything because all the adults were ignoring it. I didn't know what to do. I was terrified. Every time I tried to get up, he would hit me and tell me not to get up. So I remember I used to have nightmares. I didn't know what they meant. Like I said, I didn't remember any of this until therapy 40 years later. I always had nightmares of a black shadow that would come up behind me, and I always felt held down in my nightmares. I was always held down. Now I know it was because he was behind me. And to this day, I can't stand for somebody to sneak up behind me. I'll punch you in the face. I will. I mean, just don't sneak up behind me because you'll get hurt. Um, I I don't know how to explain that. So much of my childhood is fragmented. I don't remember so much of it. And I, I would escape just into a world of fantasy, just to escape the brutality of what my real life was like. My mother was constantly beating me for something. I remember one time I didn't want to eat my mashed potatoes or whatever for dinner. I think it was mashed potatoes. And she made me sit there. And she sat there with me. And she made me eat those potatoes until I threw up in the plate. And how do you, when it's your mother doing those things and you're just a kid, you can't figure out what the fuck is going on. Sorry. What is going on? I mean, you're trusting these people and they hurt you. Um, my mother had this thing. There were 6 of us kids. Okay, if one of us got in trouble, we all got in trouble. She would line us up, and she would whip one of us at a time. She would whip us until she couldn't move her arm anymore. She'd rest a minute, she'd get the next one. She'd beat the shit out of that one. I was always first because I was always the oldest. I'll never forget. I was in the 3rd grade, and I had gotten in trouble for something, God knows what. And she liked to pull my panties down and whip my bare ass with whatever she could find. I think this time she had a brush, a hair brush or something. And my mother was a big woman. She was a big woman. She weighed almost 400 pounds at one time. And I mean, I was like this big around. I was a little bitty thing. So she opened up the curtains, which faced out to the road. She sat on the couch and she bent me over her lap. And she raised up my dress. And she proceeded to whip my ass. And whipped me and whipped me and whipped me. The next day, I went to school to find out that the boys down the street had seen what she had done. And they all made fun of me. They all laughed at me because I had gotten us a whipping. That's how big of a deal it was. Nobody ever said anything. That's something I've never understood my whole life. How can you see and not see? Once, when I was eight or 9, I had my father had brought home a dirt bike for my brother, the one just under me. Well, he brought it home from work. It was dark already. And my brother insisted he wanted to ride it right that minute. Okay, so he takes off on the thing and runs it straight up a tree. I mean, straight up the tree. Something out of a cartoon. Well, he broke his arm, so he couldn't ride it anymore. So I started riding it, and I got pretty good at it. Well, we lived on a gravel road, and I was coming around the corner one day, and there were a bunch of kids, little kids playing in the street, and they didn't see me coming. And I couldn't stop, so I laid the bike down. And when I did, my leg got caught underneath it, and it slid down this gravel road about, I don't know how far. I don't know how far. Enough. Because it took the hide off of my leg from my ankle to my hip. And I'm laying there screaming, just, and bleeding, and the whole 9 yards. And my mother comes outside, and she picks me up off of the road, and she takes me in the house, into the bathroom, and she filled the bathtub up with bleach and a little bit of water. And she put me in it, and she held me down in it while I screamed. I screamed and I screamed until I don't remember anything else. There was one point where I remember looking up at her, and she looked like she was enjoying it. She had a smile on her face. It seemed like the more I struggled and the more I screamed, the more she enjoyed it. That really does mess with a kid's head, you know. After that, memories became even sketchier. I remember she got mad at me one time because I would go through my food because I thought she was trying to poison me. I did. And she would get mad and she would start screaming, "I'm not trying to poison you. I'm not trying to poison you." Well, I had no idea. I thought this woman was trying to kill me. I mean, she was trying. So I remember times hearing her beat my brothers, just hearing them scream and not being able to stop her. I would rather have gotten the beatings myself than to listen to them have to get one. Because when she would go into a rage, she would lose her mind. And like I said, she was a big woman. She could cause a lot of damage. But she would always tell me, "I know where to hit you. I know where to hit you where it won't show." And she could. She was very good at it. So, that's enough for right now. I don't know if I can do any more today. So, I will come back and tell you some more of the story.